Ever really looked at a map of America? Beyond the tourist spots and city lights, there are shadows. These aren't just any shadows. They stretch from the deepest forests to the most desolate swamps, from quiet lakes to forgotten back roads. You see, every state, every county, practically every small town has its stories. And not just history lessons, but tales of things unseen, things you can't just explain away. Forget Bigfoot for a moment. We're pulling back the curtain on American folklore, and let me tell you, it's a landscape crawling with legends much stranger and, frankly, often more unsettling than you might think.
So welcome. We're about to explore America's hidden collection of creatures. Now, this isn't just some dry list of monsters. Think of it as a road trip into the heart of local legends, a state-by-state peek at the creatures that lurk just beyond what we think we know. For generations, these stories were whispered around campfires, shared in hushed voices, and usually laughed off by the skeptics. But what if some of these stories hold a sliver of truth? What if that rustling in the woods isn't just the wind, and that strange shape in the water isn't just a log? We're heading into every nook and cranny of the country, from the sun-baked deserts of the Southwest to the ancient forests of the Northeast, from the humid bayous of the South to the frozen expanses of the North. Our mission? To dig up the forgotten cryptids, those local legends that don't always make the national news, but are stitched deep into the fabric of their hometowns. Get ready to wonder what's really out there. This is Legendary Creatures of the USA Uncovered, state by state. Alabama, the White Thang. Our southern swing starts in Alabama, a state of deep forests and winding rivers. Down here, there are whispers of the White Thang. Reports of this creature really picked up in the 1990s, though some tales reach further back. So what is it? Well, it's often described as a towering bipedal creature, maybe 8 feet tall, covered in stark white hair. Imagine an albino Bigfoot, or some accounts even suggest a massive white lion with piercing red eyes. It's said to roam the wilderness areas of Morgan, Etowah, and Jefferson counties. While some say it's more curious than menacing, its eerie, human-like scream echoing through the forests at night is enough to chill anyone to the bone. So is it just a misidentified bear? A tall tale cooked up by locals? Or could there be something truly unknown out there in the Alabama wilderness? The stories, they keep coming. Arkansas's the Fouke Monster and the White River Monster. Next, we head west to Arkansas, a state of rugged Ozark mountains and dense bottomland swamps, where we find two standout legends. First up, the infamous Fouke Monster. Also known as the Southern Sasquatch, this creature grabbed national attention back in the early 1970s, especially around the small town of Fouke in Miller County. It's described as a large, hairy, ape-like creature, standing 7 to 8 feet tall, with dark matted hair and glowing eyes. And get this, it's often accompanied by a repulsive odor. The most notorious encounter? That happened in 1971, when it allegedly attacked a local family, an event that actually inspired the docudrama, The Legend of Boggy Creek. But Arkansas's waters hold their own secrets. The White River Monster, first spotted near Newport way back in 1915, is said to be a colossal creature with gray skin, as wide as a car and as long as 3. Some reports even claim it has a spiny backbone and a strange horn on its forehead. Over 100 sightings have been recorded, with tales even blaming it for overturning boats during the Civil War. Whether it's a massive fish, a lost manatee, or something more mysterious, the White River Monster is a fixture of Arkansas's river lore. Florida, the skunk ape and the St. Augustine monster. Ah, Florida. Swamps, Everglades, and the perfect stomping ground for the skunk ape. As its charming name suggests, this cryptid is notorious for its overwhelmingly foul odor, often compared to rotten eggs or, well, a skunk. Descriptions paint it as a large, hairy, ape-like creature, usually around 7 feet tall, with dark reddish-brown or black fur. Sightings have been popping up for decades, especially in the southern parts of the state. Some Native American legends also talk about a similar creature. So is it a reclusive primate, an unknown species toughing it out in the harsh swamp environment, or just a bunch of misidentifications in tall tailies fueled by the mysterious vibe of the Everglades? The official skunk ape research headquarters on Marco Island certainly suggests some folks take it very seriously. Florida's coastline has its mysteries too, like the St. Augustine monster. Back in 1896, a massive, unidentifiable carcass washed ashore near St. Augustine. At first, people thought it was a giant octopus, and the blob-like remains sparked a huge debate. While modern science often points to a whale carcass, the initial mystery and just how plain weird the find was have cemented its place in Florida's cryptozoological history. Georgia, Altamaha. Let's wade into the waters of Georgia, particularly the Altamaha River, where Altamaha, or Alti, supposedly swims. This cryptid is often described as a serpentine creature, maybe 20 to 30 feet long, with a green, smooth body, a horse-like head, big eyes and flippers. Tales of Alti go all the way back to the Tama Native American tribe, who warned of a large, mysterious creature living in the river. Sightings by settlers and modern residents continue, often describing it moving with a snake-like or eel-like undulation. Some think it could be a misidentified sturgeon or alligator gar, but for believers, Alti is the enigmatic guardian of the Altamaha. Louisiana, the rougarou and the Honey Island swamp monster. Louisiana's folklore? It's as rich and murky as its famous bayous. Here, the legend of the rougarou, or loup-garou, is alive and well. This creature is basically the Cajun werewolf, a human who transforms, often because of a curse or from dabbling in dark arts, into a wolf-like beast. Descriptions vary. Some say it has a human body with a wolf's head, others a more complete wolf out. The rougarou is said to prowl the swamps and sugarcane fields, a spooky reminder not to wander out alone at night or break religious rules. Deeper in the swamps, specifically the Honey Island swamp, lives another fearsome cryptid, the Honey Island swamp monster. Reports generally describe a bipedal, ape-like creature, about 7 feet tall, with grayish hair, yellow or red eyes, and a truly awful stench. Some tales link its origin to a circus train wreck in the early 20th century, where chimpanzees supposedly escaped and interbred with local alligators. A highly unlikely story, sure, but one that adds to the creature's bizarre reputation. Footprints and eyewitness accounts keep the legend alive in this remote and mysterious part of Louisiana. Mississippi, the Pascagoula River aliens, and the three-legged ghost. Mississippi brings a curious mix of the extraterrestrial and the spectral. In 1973, the town of Pascagoula became the center of a UFO event where 2 men claimed they were abducted by strange, robotic-looking beings with crab-like claws while fishing on the Pascagoula River. These Pascagoula River aliens weren't cryptids in the usual sense, but they became a deeply ingrained part of local legend, blurring the lines between unknown creatures and visitors from who knows where. A more traditional piece of folklore is the three-legged ghost. sometimes called the three-legged lady of Nashoba County. Legends describe the spirit of a woman, often seen along lonely roads, easily identified by her unusual third leg. The origins of her story change depending on who you ask. Some involve tragic accidents, others are more sinister. Her appearance is often considered an omen, maybe a spectral guardian, or perhaps a lost soul forever bound to the Mississippi backwoods. North Carolina, the Beast of Bleddenboro and the Wampus Cat. In North Carolina, things get chilling with the Beast of Bleddenboro. In the winter of 1953-54, a series of mysterious livestock killings terrified the small town of Bleddenboro. Dogs and other animals were found drained of blood, their bodies mangled. Eyewitnesses described the culprit as a large, sleek, cat-like creature, possibly a panther or a cougar, but with an unusually aggressive attitude. The panic was so real that armed hunting parties scoured the woods. While a large bobcat was eventually killed, many believed the true beast was never caught, cementing its status as a terrifying local legend. Another feline terror rooted in Appalachian folklore, including parts of North Carolina, is the Wampus Cat, often described as a half-woman, half-cat creature, or a monstrous panther. The Wampus Cat is said to have a horrifying shriek. Its origins are often tied to Cherokee legends of a woman who, after spying on sacred tribal ceremonies, was cursed to become the beast. It's a creature of stealth and fear, a reminder of ancient magic in the mountain wilderness. South Carolina, the lizard man of Scape or Swamp and the Boo Hag. South Carolina's got a claim to one of the more modern and pretty sensational cryptids, the lizard man of Scape or Swamp. The legend blew up in the summer of 1988 in Lee County, when a teenager reported encountering a 7-foot-tall green, scaly creature with glowing red eyes and 3-fingered hands after stopping to change a flat tire near the swamp. He claimed it attacked his car, leaving behind scratches and bite marks. Other reports followed, describing similar encounters and damage to vehicles. While skeptics point to bears or local hoaxes, the vivid descriptions and the sheer panic it caused have made the lizard man an enduring icon of South Carolina folklore. From the Gullah Geechee folklore of the coastal regions comes the Boo Hag, a terrifying skin-stealing entity. Not a physical cryptid in the animal sense, the Boo Hag is more like a vampire or succubus. It's said to be a creature that sheds its skin at night, leaving it behind to fly out and ride, or drain the life force of its sleeping victims, leaving them exhausted or breathless. The only way to beat a Boo Hag? Find its discarded skin and salt it, preventing the creature from getting back in before sunrise. Tennessee, the Tennessee Wildman and the Bell Witch. Over in the mountains and forests of Tennessee, stories of the Tennessee Wildman persist. Similar to Bigfoot or Sasquatch legends found elsewhere, the Wildman is described as a tall, powerfully built, ape-like hominid covered in dark hair. Accounts often emphasize its aggressive nature and startling screams. Sightings and encounters are reported throughout the Appalachian regions of the state, a testament to the enduring belief that untamed wilderness can harbor unknown beings. Perhaps Tennessee's most famous legend, though not strictly a cryptid, is the Bell Witch. Starting in the early 19th century in Adams, Tennessee, this tale involves the Bell family, who were tormented by an unseen entity. The entity, which came to be known as Kate, was said to speak, physically assault family members, and even predict future events. While some theories suggest trickery or psychological issues, the Bell Witch legend is one of America's most well-documented and terrifying paranormal cases, a chilling story of a malevolent, intelligent force rather than just a beast. Maine, Spectre Moose in Wessie. Now let's venture into the vast, sometimes unforgiving, wilderness of Maine. Here we encounter tales of the spectre moose. This isn't just any moose. It's described as an exceptionally large, often albino or ghostly white bull moose, far bigger than typical specimens. Its antlers are said to be enormous and unusually shaped. Seeing the spectre moose is often considered an omen, sometimes good fortune, other times impending doom. These creatures are phantom-like, appearing and disappearing suddenly, leaving behind a sense of awe and unease. Maine also has its own serpentine legend in Wessie, the Presumpscot River Python. Starting in 2016, reports emerged of a very large snake, possibly a python up to 10 feet long, spotted in and around Westbrook. A large snakeskin was even found, lending some weight to the sightings. While likely an escaped or released pet, Wessie captured the local imagination, becoming a modern cryptid legend, a symbol of the unexpected wildness that can pop up even in relatively settled areas. Vermont, the Northfield Pigman and Champy. Vermont, with its green mountains and deep lakes, gives us the truly bizarre tale of the Northfield Pigman. Legend says that in the fall of 1971, a teenager named Sam Harris, who had gone missing before Halloween, returned. Changed. The stories claim he emerged from the woods, not quite human, wearing a pig's head or with pig-like features and acting feral. The Pigman is said to haunt the area around Northfield, particularly the Devil's Washbowl and local cemeteries, a disturbing figure born from a local tragedy twisted into monstrous form. Shared with New York and Quebec, Lake Champlain is the domain of Champ or Champy, America's most famous lake monster after Nessie. Described as a large, serpentine creature, often with multiple humps, a long neck, and a horse-like or snake-like head, Champ has been part of local folklore for centuries. Native American tribes in the region had legends of a large water creature in the lake long before Europeans showed up. The most famous piece of evidence is the Mansi photo from 1977, which supposedly shows the creature, though its authenticity is hotly debated. Champ remains a beloved local legend and a subject of ongoing cryptozoological investigation. New Hampshire, wood devils, devil monkeys. Deep in the forests of New Hampshire, particularly in Coos County, are said to be home to wood devils or devil monkeys. Sightings reported since the 1930s, and with a notable spike in the 1970s, describe these creatures as skinny, tall Sasquatch-like beings covered in gray hair, or sometimes as fast-moving, aggressive, baboon-like creatures with dog-like muzzles and long tails. They're known for their incredible speed and agility, and sometimes for their eerie screams. Despite dodging clear photographs, they regularly leave behind large, unusual footprints, fueling speculation about what truly stalks the New Hampshire backwoods. Massachusetts, the Dover Demon and Pukwudgies. Massachusetts brings us the enigmatic Dover Demon. This creature was sighted over 2 nights in April 1977. In the town of Dover, several teenagers, in separate incidents, reported seeing a small, slender creature with a large, watermelon-shaped head, glowing orange eyes, and long, spindly limbs. It was described as being pale and hairless. The sightings were brief but consistent, and the creature's utterly alien appearance has made it a classic in cryptozoological circles. Theories range from an extraterrestrial to an unknown terrestrial animal, or even something from another dimension. Who knows? Also prominent in Massachusetts and other parts of New England is the Pukwudgie, a creature from Wampanoag folklore. Pukwudgies are described as small humanoid figures, typically 2 to 3 feet tall, with gray skin and large noses, fingers, and ears. Originally, they were seen as mischievous but relatively harmless nature spirits. However, later tailies paint them as dangerous tricksters, capable of luring people off cliffs, using magic, and even attacking humans with small knives or sand. They're often associated with swamps and wooded areas. Rhode Island, the Palatine Ghost, Vampire Mercy Brown. Don't let its size fool you. Rhode Island has its own chilling tailies. One enduring maritime legend is the Palatine Ghost, or the Phantom Ship of Block Island. This tale speaks of a spectral ship, often seen ablaze, which is said to be the ghost of the immigrant ship Palatine that supposedly wrecked off Block Island in the 18th century under mysterious and tragic circumstances. Seeing the fiery ghost ship is considered a very bad omen. While not a cryptid in the creature sense, the story of Mercy Brown is one of America's most famous vampire cases and is deeply embedded in Rhode Island folklore. In 1892, in Exeter, several members of the Brown family died from tuberculosis. Superstition led locals to believe that one of the deceased family members was a vampire, rising from the grave to feed on the living. Mercy Brown's body was exhumed, and because of its state of preservation, it was believed she was the culprit. Her heart was cut out and burned. This historical event highlights the real-world fear and folklore that can create monster legends. Connecticut, Melon Heads in Dudleytown. Connecticut's folklore has something pretty unsettling. The Melon Heads. These legends are primarily concentrated in Fairfield County and some parts of Ohio and Michigan. They're described as small humanoids with disproportionately large, bulbous heads who are said to live in secluded wooded areas and emerge to attack people. Origin stories vary wildly. Some claim they're the descendants of an inbred family of outcasts. Others say they were escaped asylum patients, or even subjects of bizarre medical experiments. Whatever their supposed origin, the Melon Heads represent a particularly creepy and localized horror legend. While not a creature, Dudleytown in Cornwall, Connecticut, is a legendary accursed place. Once a thriving settlement in the 18th and 19th centuries, it gradually became abandoned. Legends claim the founders were cursed, and that a series of misfortunes, deaths, and madness befell its residents. Reports of paranormal activity, strange lights, disembodied voices, and unsettling feelings are common from those who visit the overgrown ruins. The land itself is considered haunted, a place where unseen forces hold sway. New Jersey, the Jersey Devil. You can't talk about northeastern cryptids without hitting New Jersey and its most famous resident, the Jersey Devil, said to inhabit the vast pine barrens of southern New Jersey. Tales of this creature date back over 250 years. The most famous origin story involves a woman known as Mother Leeds, who, upon learning she was pregnant with her 13th child in 1735, allegedly cursed it in frustration. The child was born seemingly normal, but soon transformed into a monstrous creature with a horse-like or goat-like head, large bat-like wings, hooves, and a forked tail, before escaping up the chimney. Or so the story goes. The Jersey Devil has been blamed for livestock killings, strange tracks, and eerie, high-pitched screams echoing through the pines. A particularly intense wave of sightings occurred in January 1909, when newspapers across the Delaware Valley published hundreds of claimed encounters, causing widespread panic, school closures, and even mill shutdowns. The creature has become such an iconic part of New Jersey folklore that the state's NHL team is named after it. Delaware, Selbyville swamp monster, Pukwudgie, Zwannendale merman. Delaware shares the Pukwudgie legend with its northern pals, those small, troublesome humanoids from Native American lore. Another prominent figure is the Selbyville swamp monster, also known as the Delaware Dogman. Reports from the area around Selbyville describe a tall, hairy, bipedal canine creature, often seen near the Great Cypress Swamp. These accounts line up with Dogman sightings in other states, suggesting a widespread, if unconfirmed, phenomenon. An older piece of lore is the Zwannendale merman. While details are a bit scarcer, this points to maritime legends common in coastal areas, likely involving sightings of unusual sea creatures, or even hoaxes like the Fiji mermaids that were popular centuries ago. The Zwannendale Museum in Lewes, named for the state's first European settlement, could be a place to dig up such historical seafaring tales. Maryland, the Snallygaster and Chessie, and the Goatman. Maryland comes in strong with the wonderfully named Snallygaster. Originating in German immigrant folklore in Frederick County during the 18th and early 19th centuries, the Snallygaster is typically described as a terrifying bird-reptile chimera, with a metallic beak filled with razor-sharp teeth, sometimes a single eye in the middle of its forehead, and octopus-like tentacles. It was said to swoop down silently from the sky to snatch children and livestock. In the early 20th century, newspaper reports revived the legend, causing a local stir. One tale even claims it was overcome by fumes from a moonshine still and fell into a vat of alcohol. Maryland also has a more benevolent water cryptid, Chessie, the monster of the Chesapeake Bay. Similar to other lake and sea serpents, Chessie is described as a long snake-like creature, often dark in color, moving with undulating humps. Sightings have been reported since the 1930s, with a notable piece of video footage emerging in 1982. Explanations range from misidentified manatees or schools of fish to an unknown marine species. Then there's the Goatman, a legend prominent in Prince George's County. This creature is described as a terrifying hybrid, part man and part goat, often wielding an axe. One popular origin story suggests it was a scientist experimenting at the Beltsville Agricultural Research Center who accidentally mutated himself. The Goatman is said to haunt lovers' lanes and lonely roads, attacking cars and unfortunate passers-by. Pennsylvania, the Squonk and the Albert Witch. From Pennsylvania's hemlock forests, we get the tale of the Squonk. This creature is perhaps one of the most melancholic cryptids you'll ever hear about. According to legend, the Squonk is a shy, ugly creature, its skin ill-fitting and covered in warts and blemishes. It's so ashamed of its appearance that it weeps constantly. Hunters who have tried to catch a Squonk find that if cornered, it can dissolve completely into a pool of tears and bubbles. The legend is thought to have originated with early lumberjacks in the state. Sad, right? A lesser-known Pennsylvania cryptid is the Albert Witch from the area around Columbia, near Chickies Rock. These are said to be small, ape-like creatures, maybe 4 to 5 feet tall, that live in the woods and are known for stealing apples from orchards, sometimes even throwing them at people. The name is thought to be a corruption of apple snitch. They're generally considered more mischievous than dangerous. New York, Champ and the Cropsey Maniac. New York shares the famous Champ with Vermont, the serpent-like monster of Lake Champlain. Sightings of a large, long-necked creature in the lake date back centuries, with both Native American legends and accounts from early European settlers. The most compelling modern evidence remains that controversial 1977 Mansi photograph. Staten Island has a more terrifying urban legend in Cropsey. This was a boogeyman figure, said to be an escaped mental patient with a hook for a hand, or an axe murderer who would stalk and snatch children. The legend took on a grim reality with the discovery of a real-life child murderer, Andre Rand, in the 1970s and 80s. Rand had worked at the notorious Willowbrook State School and was believed to have lived in the tunnels beneath it. This blurred the line between folklore and true crime, making Cropsey a particularly chilling figure. New York also has tales of the White Lady, a ghostly figure often seen searching for a lost daughter, a common spectral archetype found in various locations. Ohio, Loveland Frogman, and the Grassmen and Melon Heads. Heading into the Midwest, Ohio introduces us to the very peculiar Loveland Frogman. First reported in 1955 and then again famously in 1972 by police officers in Loveland, Ohio, these creatures are described as being 3 to 4 feet tall, bipedal, with leathery green skin, webbed hands and feet, and frog-like faces. One officer even claimed one of the creatures brandished a wand-like device that emitted sparks. While some sightings were later recanted or explained as misidentified large lizards or even hoaxes, the image of these humanoid frogs remains a quirky and enduring part of Ohio folklore. Ohio also shares those melon head legends with Connecticut and Michigan, small humanoids with bulbous heads said to attack people. Another Ohio cryptid is the Grassman, also known as the Ohio Grassman or Orange Eyes. This is Ohio's version of Bigfoot, a large, hairy, bipedal ape-like creature, typically reported in the eastern and southern forested regions of the state. Some accounts describe it as being particularly aggressive and having glowing orange or red eyes. Michigan, the Michigan Dogman and the Nain Rouge. Michigan's got a famous haunter, the Michigan Dogman. This creature is described as a bipedal canine, 7 feet tall, with a wolf-like head, blue or amber eyes, and a human-like torso. Sightings have been reported across the northern part of the Lower Peninsula and parts of the Upper Peninsula. A key part of the legend is that it supposedly appears in a 10-year cycle, in years ending with the number 7. The first modern popularization of the Dogman came from a 1987 radio song, but tales of a man-wolf creature in the region date back much further, including Native American legends. Detroit has its own specific harbinger of doom, the Nain Rouge or Red Dwarf. This creature, rooted in French colonial folklore, is described as a small, child-sized being with red or black fur boots, blazing red eyes, and rotten teeth. Seeing the Nain Rouge is considered a dire omen, predicting misfortune and disaster for the city or for the person who sees it. It has apparently been sighted before numerous calamities in Detroit's history. Indiana, Beast of Busco and the Green-Clawed Beast. Over in Churubusco, Indiana, the legend of the Beast of Busco, also known as Oscar, really took off in 1949. Oscar was said to be a gigantic snapping turtle, allegedly as big as a dining room table, living in Folk Lake. The farmer who owned the lake, Gale Harris, along with many others, tried numerous times to capture the colossal turtle, even attempting to drain the lake. Oscar was never caught, but the hunt for him became a national sensation, cementing the Beast of Busco in Indiana folklore. Indiana is also said to have the Mushakanabik, a great water serpent from Potawatomi lore. From Evansville, Indiana, comes the tale of the Green-Clawed Beast. In August 1955, a woman swimming in the Ohio River with a friend reported being grabbed and pulled underwater by a large, hairy hand with green claws. She struggled and escaped, emerging with green stains on her leg that were difficult to remove. The incident caused a local scare, with many avoiding the river for a while. Illinois, the Enfield Horror and the Big Muddy Monster. Enfield, Illinois. Back in April '73, this place had a series of bizarre encounters with what they called the Enfield Horror. It was described as having 3 legs, short arms with clawed hands, pinkish glowing eyes, and grayish, slimy skin. It was said to be about 4 to 5 feet tall and made a hissing sound like a wildcat. Several residents reported seeing it, and one man even claimed to have shot it, after which it supposedly leaped an incredible distance to escape. Illinois is also known for the Big Muddy Monster, or Murfreesboro Monster, often shortened to Momo, although sometimes attributed to Missouri due to proximity. It's primarily an Illinois legend. Sightings in Murfreesboro in 1973 described a tall, dark, hairy, bipedal creature with a foul odor, similar to Bigfoot reports. It was seen by multiple witnesses and left large tracks. Wisconsin, the Beast of Bray Road and Phantom Kangaroos. Elkhorn, Wisconsin. This is where you'll hear about the Beast of Bray Road. Sightings, mainly in the late 1980s and early 1990s, described a werewolf-like creature, hairy, muscular, bipedal, with canine features, pointed ears, and glowing yellow or red eyes. It was often seen on or near Bray Road, a rural country road. Some accounts describe it as bear-like or like an unusually large wolf, while others insist on its more humanoid, werewolf characteristics. The sheer number of consistent reports in a concentrated area brought national attention to this cryptid. More unusually, Wisconsin has reports of phantom kangaroos. These are out-of-place animal sightings where kangaroos are reported in areas far from their native, Australia, and with no known zoo escapes. While often dismissed as misidentifications or hoaxes, persistent reports over the years have given them a place in Wisconsin's stranger folklore. Definitely a head-scratcher. Minnesota, the Wendigo and the Minnesota Iceman. Minnesota, with its huge northern forests and deep roots in Algonquian culture, is prime Wendigo country. The Wendigo is a malevolent, cannibalistic spirit or creature. Descriptions vary. Some say it's an emaciated, giant skeletal being with glowing eyes and long claws. Others that it can possess humans and drive them to cannibalism. It's associated with winter, famine, and the darkest aspects of human nature. The legend serves as a powerful cautionary tale, and a terrifying one at that. A different kind of Minnesota mystery was the Minnesota Iceman. This was a purported hominid creature frozen in a block of ice, exhibited at fairs and carnivals in the late 1960s. Promoters claimed it was a missing link or an unknown primate. Cryptozoologists Evan Sanderson and Bernard Heuvelmans examined it and actually believed it to be genuine. However, the FBI was also reportedly interested, and the original exhibit disappeared, later replaced by a model. The true nature of the Minnesota Iceman remains a hot debate. Iowa, the Van Meter visitor. Picture this. Fall 1903, Van Meter, Iowa. This small town went through a week of sheer terror, thanks to a creature known as the Van Meter visitor. It was described as a large, winged humanoid creature with a blunt horn on its head that glowed and shot beams of light. It also reportedly had a terrible stench. Several respected townspeople, including the doctor and the bank cashier, encountered the creature. It was said to fly from an old, abandoned coal mine outside of town. After a final showdown where locals fired upon it to no avail as it flew back towards the mine, it disappeared, presumably into the mine shaft, which was then sealed or collapsed. What a week! Missouri, Momo, and the Ozark Howler. Missouri gets its name thrown in with Momo, the Missouri Monster. Those sightings are often linked to the Murfreesboro incidents in Illinois due to proximity. However, Missouri has its own Bigfoot-type reports. The original Momo sightings in Louisiana, Missouri, in July 1972, described a 7-foot-tall, black, hairy creature with a pumpkin-shaped head that made gurgling noises and had a terrible odor. It was seen by multiple children and left 3-toed footprints. The Ozark Howler is a creature said to inhabit the remote Ozark Mountains region, which spans Missouri, Arkansas, Oklahoma, and Kansas. Descriptions vary, but often it's depicted as a large, dark, cat-like or bear-like creature with shaggy fur, glowing red eyes, and prominent horns. Its most distinguishing feature? Its terrifying howl, described as a mix between a wolf's howl, an elk's bugle, and a hyena's laugh. You wouldn't want to hear that alone at night. North Dakota, Thunderbird, and Minnewashi. North Dakota, like a lot of plains and western states, has its Thunderbird legends. This massive eagle-like bird, rooted in Native American mythology across the continent, is said to have a wingspan capable of blotting out the sun. Its appearance is often associated with storms, as the beating of its immense wings is said to create thunder, and lightning flashes from its eyes. While many consider it purely mythological, some historical and even modern accounts report sightings of inexplicably large birds. A more localized North Dakota legend is the Minnewashi. This is a fearsome water creature from Lakota and Dakota Sioux lore, said to inhabit the Missouri River. It's often described as a large, red, horned beast, sometimes with a single eye, whose appearance could drive a person insane or even cause their death. The Minnewashi was greatly feared, a powerful spirit of the waters. South Dakota, Takuhi and the Badlands Banshee. South Dakota echoes with Native American legends of big, mysterious beings. Takuhi is one such entity, often described as a giant, hairy, Bigfoot-like creature, but sometimes with more monstrous or devil-like characteristics. The name itself in Lakota can refer to something strange or "what is that?", which tells you a lot about its mysterious nature. The Badlands Banshee is a more spectral figure, said to haunt the rugged and desolate Badlands National Park. Like traditional Irish banshees, its wailing cry is considered an omen of death or misfortune. The eerie landscape of the Badlands, with its wind-carved spires and deep canyons, provides a fittingly spooky backdrop for such a mournful spirit. Nebraska, the Alkali Lake Monster and the Walgren Lake Monster. Nebraska? Oh, it's got its own lake monster tailies, particularly the Alkali Lake Monster, sometimes called the Nebraska Nacy or Giganticus. Reported from the Alkali Lakes in the Sandhills region, particularly near Walgren Lake, it's often described as a very large, alligator-like or serpent-like creature, grayish-brown, maybe 40 feet long, with a horn between its eyes or on its snout. It's blamed for consuming livestock and even causing a foul odor or disorienting travelers who get too close. Sightings were most prominent in the early 20th century. Kansas, Sinkhole Sam and the Deer Woman. Down in Kansas around Inman, they talk about Sinkhole Sam. This creature is said to be a colossal, serpentine or worm-like beast, perhaps 15 feet long with a diameter of a car tire, living in a deep sinkhole or lake that reportedly formed suddenly. It was described as having smooth, slimy skin and a huge appetite. The main flurry of reports happened back in the 1950s. A more widespread Native American legend with strong ties to Kansas and Oklahoma is the Deer Woman. She's a spirit being, often appearing as a beautiful young woman who can be identified by her deer-like eyes or hooves, which she tries to hide. She lures men, particularly those who are promiscuous or disrespectful, away to their doom or to drive them mad. She's a cautionary figure, representing the dangers of temptation and the importance of respecting women and nature. So we've trekked through the eerie swamps of the South, the ancient forests of the Northeast, and the expansive plains of the Midwest, and honestly, we've only scratched the surface of America's forgotten legends. Think about it. Towering hairy beasts, ghostly ships, creatures you can barely describe. The tapestry of local folklore is way richer and stranger than most people think. But hold on, our journey isn't over yet. The West is still out there. Vast deserts, massive mountains, deep Pacific waters, and it's got its own lineup of mysterious beings waiting. Before we head out that way, if you're finding these stories as fascinating as I do, why not subscribe and hit that notification bell? You really don't want to miss what's lurking in the rest of the states. And hey, drop a comment below. Which state's cryptids are you dying to hear about next? Or maybe you've got a local legend from your own hometown that the world needs to know. Texas, the Chupacabra and the Lake Worth Monster and the Donkey Lady. Alright, let's talk Texas. A state this big and varied? You bet it's a cryptid hotspot. It's one of the primary U.S. territories for the Chupacabra, meaning goat sucker in Spanish. While it first popped up in Puerto Rico in the 1990s, tales quickly spread. Descriptions are all over the place. Some say it's a reptilian creature with spines down its back. Others a more canine-like, hairless beast with serious fangs. It's infamous for allegedly attacking livestock, especially goats, and draining their blood. Many supposed Chupacabra carcasses found in Texas have turned out to be coyotes or dogs with severe mange, but the legend? Still potent. Near Lake Worth, outside Fort Worth, comes the legend of the Lake Worth Monster, sometimes called the Goatman of Lake Worth. Sightings peaked in the summer of 1969, describing a creature that was part man, part goat, covered in white fur or scales, and liked to throw tires or jump on cars. Just your average Texas evening, right? San Antonio has its own uniquely unsettling legend. The Donkey Lady. Stories say she was a woman horribly disfigured in a fire, causing her face and hands to melt into hoof-like and horse-like features. She now supposedly haunts a specific bridge, and you might hear her braying screams, or she might even attack cars that stop or honk on her bridge. Colorado, Slide Rock Bolter, and Tommyknockers and the Ridge Home Asylum apparitions. Colorado's Rocky Mountains, a dramatic backdrop for some pretty dramatic cryptids. One of the most imaginative is the Slide Rock Bolter, also known as the mountain whale. This colossal, whale-like creature is said to live on steep mountain slopes, having a massive head, small eyes, and a tail with large grab hooks. It supposedly anchors itself to a mountaintop with its tail, waiting for unsuspecting prey to pass below. When it spots a target, it releases its tail and slides down the mountainside at incredible speed, swallowing everything in its path. This legend probably started with 19th century lumberjacks and miners as a classic tall tale. Miners in Colorado also brought with them tales of Tommyknockers. These are a Colorado version of Cornish folklore creatures, gnome-like or leprechaun-like beings said to live in mines. They were often heard knocking on mine walls, which could be an omen of an impending cave-in, or, if you disrespected them, a sign of mischief or danger they'd cause themselves. While not a cryptid, the grounds of the former Ridge Home Asylum in Arvada are said to be haunted by the apparitions of former patients. The facility, opened in 1912, reportedly had a history of mistreatment. Though demolished in 2004, locals claim screams can still be heard and ghostly figures seen. Utah, Bear Lake Monster and Skinwalkers in Old Brinney. Utah shares the Bear Lake Monster with its neighbor, Idaho. This large, serpentine creature is said to inhabit the deep, turquoise waters of Bear Lake on the Utah-Idaho border. Mormon pioneer accounts from the 19th century describe a creature up to 90 feet long, with a lizard-like head, short, powerful legs, and capable of moving swiftly both in water and on land. Native American legends of the area also spoke of a water beast in the lake. Utah is also a prominent location for tales of the Skinwalker, a terrifying figure from Navajo folklore. A skinwalker is a type of malevolent witch who has gained the power to shapeshift, often into animals like coyotes, wolves, bears, or birds. They're associated with immense evil, bringing sickness, misfortune, and death. Encounters are deeply, deeply feared. A more peculiar Utah legend is Old Brinney, said to be an enormous brine shrimp living in the Great Salt Lake. Given that brine shrimp are tiny crustaceans, this legend plays on the idea of gigantism in the lake's unique, highly salty environment. A giant shrimp... Why not? Nevada, Tahoe Tessian water babies of Pyramid Lake and Alkali Lake Monster. Nevada and California share Lake Tahoe, and with it, the legend of Tahoe Tessie, a large serpentine lake monster similar to Champ or Nessie. Sightings describe a creature 10 to 80 feet long with smooth, dark skin. Pyramid Lake, located on Paiute tribal land, has the tragic legend of the water babies. Stories say that the spirits of unwanted or premature infants, left at the lake by ancient tribes, manifest as crying ghostly babies or small malevolent beings that can lure people into the water to drown them. Their cries are said to echo across the lake at night. Chilling. Nevada also has its share of Alkali Lake monster stories, similar to those in Nebraska, describing large, horned, alligator-like creatures in desolate saline lakes. Arizona, Mogollon Monster and Thunderbirds. When you think Arizona cryptids, the Mogollon Monster usually comes to mind. It's essentially Arizona's Bigfoot. Said to inhabit the Mogollon Rim, a vast escarpment in central Arizona, this creature is described as a bipedal hominid, over 7 feet tall, covered in long black or reddish-brown hair, with large, red eyes, and emitting a terrible stench often likened to dead fish or skunk. It's known for its blood-curdling screams, sometimes sounding like a woman in distress, and for allegedly raiding campsites and throwing stones. Arizona, with its vast desert skies and strong Native American heritage, is also a key location for thunderbird sightings. These immense, eagle-like birds are said to cause storms with the beat of their wings. One famous account from the late 19th century involves 2 cowboys in Arizona who supposedly killed a giant bird with a wingspan of a barn door and dragged it into Tombstone. True or not, it's a heck of a story. New Mexico, Territorns and La Llorona. New Mexico? It's got its own tales of Territorns, enormous prehistoric-looking birds, basically another name for thunderbirds or giant condor-like creatures. Sightings of impossibly large birds of prey continue to surface in the region. A powerful piece of folklore throughout the Southwest, including New Mexico, is La Llorona, the Weeping Woman. She's the ghost of a woman who, according to legend, drowned her children in a fit of rage or despair after being scorned by her lover. Now she roams near rivers and waterways, eternally weeping and searching for them. Her cry, "Hey, Miss He-Hos," is a terrifying omen, and it's said she might snatch living children who wander too close to the water, mistaking them for her own. California, dark watchers and Fresno night crawlers, and Tahoe-Tessie. California's Santa Lucia Mountains are where you might glimpse the eerie dark watchers. These are tall, featureless, dark silhouettes, often described as shadowy humanoids wearing wide-brimmed hats or cloaks. They're typically seen at twilight or dawn, standing motionless on ridgelines, just watching travelers from a distance. They never show any facial features and are said to disappear if you try to get closer or even if you look away for a second. They aren't openly threatening, but definitely unsettling. A more recent and downright bizarre California cryptid is the Fresno nightcrawler. These things got famous from a 2007 surveillance video in Fresno, which showed two small leggy figures walking across a lawn. They appear to be very short, maybe only a couple of feet tall, with disproportionately long, stilt-like legs and very small upper bodies or heads, almost like a pair of walking pants. Similar footage later popped up from Yosemite. Some folks have even pointed to Native American rock carvings in the region as possibly depicting them. And of course, California shares the legend of Tahoe-Tessie, Oregon colossal clawed, and the Gumbaroo and Bigfoot. Out off the Oregon coast, sailors and fishermen have long told tales of colossal clawed, a massive sea serpent, described as being up to 40 to 60 feet long, with a camel-like head, a long neck, and a humped, dark body. Clawed is Oregon's answer to other oceanic cryptids. Sightings were particularly noted in the 1930s around the Columbia River Bar. From the lumberjack folklore of the Pacific Northwest, including Oregon, comes the Gumbaroo. This strange beast is said to live in forests, particularly near cedar trees. It's described as bear-sized, black, and nearly hairless, with tough, leathery skin that's supposedly bulletproof. Its only vulnerable spot? Its stomach. It apparently loves heat and is said to cause forest fires or be drawn to campfires, which it then puts out by inhaling all the heat. Handy, if a bit scary. And of course, Oregon is deep in Bigfoot country. Numerous sightings of the large, hairy, ape-like hominid are reported throughout its dense forests, especially in the Cascade Mountains. Washington, Bigfoot, Sasquatch, and the Lake Chelan dragon and caddy. Washington State. If there's an epicenter for Bigfoot or Sasquatch lore, this is arguably it. The term Sasquatch is an anglicized version of a Salish First Nations word. Countless sightings, footprints, and even the famous 1967 Patterson-Gimlin film define this iconic cryptid. Described as a towering bipedal ape-man, covered in dark fur, it roams the vast wilderness areas of the state. Washington also has its share of lake monsters. The Lake Chelan dragon, sometimes called Sinitko by local tribes, is said to inhabit the deep, cold waters of Lake Chelan. Descriptions vary. Sometimes it's a winged sea lizard or a classic many-humped serpent. Off the coast of Washington and British Columbia swims Cabrosaurus, or caddy, another well-documented sea serpent. It's described as having a horse-like or camel-like head on a long neck, a serpentine body with flippers, and sometimes a series of humps or even a saw-toothed dorsal fin. Sightings by sailors, fishermen, and coastal residents have been recorded for over a century. Idaho, Charlie and the Swan Valley Monster and the Bear Lake Monster. In McCall, Idaho, Payette Lake is home to Charlie, also known as the Twilight Dragon of Payette Lake. First widely reported in the 1920s by mill workers who saw what they thought was a moving log that turned out to be a creature. Charlie is typically described as a serpent-like beast, 30 to 40 feet long, with a dinosaur-like head, pronounced jaws, a humped back, and shell-like skin. Native American legends also spoke of a monster in the lake. The Swan Valley Monster from eastern Idaho is described as a large, grotesque, amphibious creature, maybe resembling a giant, deformed salamander or a cross between a lizard and a seal that supposedly leaves three-toed tracks. It's often associated with the Snake River. And as we mentioned, Idaho shares the legend of the Bear Lake Monster with Utah, that large, serpent-like creature with short legs and a pretty formidable appearance. Montana, Shunka Warakan, and the Flathead Lake Monster. Montana introduces us to the Shunka Warakan, a creature from Native American folklore, particularly the Iowa tribe. The name translates to something like carries off dogs. It's described as a wolf-like or hyena-like beast, but larger and more powerful, with dark fur and a sloping back. Back in 1886, a rancher supposedly shot and killed an unusual wolf-like animal that matched descriptions of the Shunka Warakan. The mounted creature, known as Ringdokus, was displayed in a local museum for years before disappearing, only to resurface recently. How cool is that? Flathead Lake, the largest natural freshwater lake west of the Mississippi in the contiguous United States, is said to be home to the Flathead Lake Monster. Similar to other North American lake monsters, it's generally described as a large, eel-like or serpentine creature, maybe 20 to 40 feet long, with dark skin and an undulating motion. Sightings date back over a century. Wyoming, Jackalope and the Namaragar. Wyoming. If you know one cryptid from here, it's probably the jackalope, that classic creature of American West folklore, depicted as a jackrabbit with antelope horns. While widely considered a hoax, perpetuated by taxidermists grafting deer antlers onto rabbit carcasses, the jackalope has become an iconic symbol of the West. Stories abound of their ferocity, their ability to mimic human voices, and their supposed preference for whiskey. A more serious legend from Shoshone folklore in Wyoming is the Namaragar, or Little People. These are said to be a race of small, aggressive humanoids who inhabited the Wind River and Pedro Mountains. They were supposedly responsible for shooting poisoned arrows at people, and were believed to have killed their own kind if they became ill or injured. The discovery of a 14-inch mummified humanoid in the Pedro Mountains in 1932 was linked by some to these legends, though the mummy itself is debated and has since vanished. Alaska, Tizheruk and Kalupalik and Urayuli. Alaska, with its sheer untamed wilderness and deep indigenous traditions, it's no surprise this place is fertile ground for legends. The Tizheruk is a sea serpent from Inuit folklore, said to inhabit the coastal waters of the Bering Strait. Described as a large, snake-like creature, 15 feet or more in length, with a flippered tail and a head resembling a snake or dragon. It's known for snatching people from docks, piers, or ice floes. Yikes! Another Inuit legend is the Kalupalik. This is a human-like creature with green, leathery skin, long hair, and very long fingernails that lives in the sea. She wears an amatik and is said to hum to lure disobedient children who wander too close to the water's edge, snatching them and carrying them away in her pouch. Definitely a story to keep kids away from the dangerous shoreline. The Urayuli, or hairy men, are peaceful Bigfoot-like creatures from Yupik folklore in southwestern Alaska. They're described as being 10 feet tall, with long lanky arms, shaggy hair covering their bodies, and glowing eyes. Unlike many other Bigfoot-type beings, the Yoreuli are generally considered gentle giants, shy and reclusive. Hawaii, Menehune, and the Night Marchers. Let's head to the Pacific. The Hawaiian Islands. They've got a totally unique set of legendary beings. The Menehune are a mythological race of dwarf-like people, said to be skilled craftspeople who inhabited the islands before the arrival of the Polynesians. They were supposedly very industrious, capable of building temples, fish ponds, roads, and dams overnight. They're generally shy and avoid humans, working only in darkness. Numerous ancient structures in Hawaii are attributed to their labor. A more feared phenomenon is the Night Marchers. These are the ghostly apparitions of ancient Hawaiian warriors, chiefs, and alii. They're said to travel in processions, often accompanied by the sounds of drums, conch shells, and chanting, along sacred paths or ancient highways, particularly during certain nights of the moon. It's considered extremely bad luck to look at or be seen by the Night Marchers. Tradition dictates that if you encounter them, you must lie face down on the ground, avert your eyes, and remain silent and still to show respect and avoid harm. Powerful stuff. West Virginia, Mothman and the Flatwoods Monster and the Sheep Squatch. West Virginia. Man, the state is a serious cryptid hotspot. Its most famous export is the Mothman of Point Pleasant. This creature was reported extensively between November 1966 and December 1967. Described as a tall, winged humanoid, maybe 7 feet tall, with grayish skin, no discernible head, and large, glowing red eyes. Its appearance was often linked to a series of strange events in the area, culminating in the tragic collapse of the Silver Bridge in December 1967, which killed 46 people. Some believe Mothman was a harbinger of this disaster. The town now hosts a Mothman museum and festival. They've really embraced their local legend. Another bizarre West Virginian entity is the Flatwoods Monster, or Braxton County Monster. Sighted in September 1952 near the town of Flatwoods, it was described as a tall, imposing figure, at least 10 feet in height, with a dark spade-shaped hood or head, glowing greenish-orange eyes, and a dark pleated skirt-like body. It was accompanied by a pungent metallic mist and a hissing sound. The sighting occurred after witnesses saw a bright object streak across the sky and land on a nearby hilltop, leading many to speculate it was extraterrestrial. Lurking in the Appalachian forests of West Virginia is also the Sheep Squatch. This creature is described as being roughly the size of a bear, but covered in shaggy, white, wool-like fur with a pointed, sheep-like or goat-like head, sharp horns, and a long, often hairless tail. It's said to have a foul odor and be surprisingly agile for its size, capable of climbing trees. Sightings report it being aggressive and emitting strange vocalizations. Kentucky, the Kelly Little Green Men, Hopkinsville Goblins, and the Pope Lick Monster. Picture this: August 1955, near Kelly and Hopkinsville, Kentucky. A rural farmhouse became the scene of an alleged extended encounter with bizarre, goblin-like creatures. These beings, dubbed the Kelly Little Green Men, were said to be about 3 to 4 feet tall, with large, pointed ears, wide, lipless mouths, glowing yellow eyes, and spindly limbs ending in clawed hands. They supposedly approached the house from the woods, peered in windows, and even floated down from the roof, terrorizing the 2 families inside for several hours. The families fired guns at them with little apparent effect. The incident remains one of the most bizarre and well-documented close encounter cases in UFO and cryptid lore. Louisville, Kentucky, is home to the legend of the Pope Lick Monster, also known as the Goatman of Pope Lick Creek. This creature is said to be a grotesque hybrid of human, goat, and sheep, haunting the railway trestle over Pope Lick Creek. Tales suggest it uses hypnosis or voice mimicry to lure victims onto the trestle, where they meet their end by an oncoming train or by falling. Its origins are debated, with stories ranging from a mistreated circus freak to a farmer who sacrificed goats for satanic powers. The legend is so potent that the trestle itself is a dangerous place, with several real-life deaths and injuries occurring there due to accidents. A truly tragic side to a terrifying legend. So from coast to coast, from the tallest mountains to the deepest lakes, America isn't just a land of history books. It's a land of whispered secrets and shadowy figures. We've made our way through all 50 states, digging up stories of creatures that run the gamut, from the hey that could be real to the outright bizarre. Think of the white Thang in Alabama, the elusive Tizheruk in Alaska's icy seas, West Virginia's glowing-eyed Mothman, or those curious dark watchers in California. Every single one adds its own unique stitch to the incredible tapestry of American folklore. Now these cryptids, whether they're just misidentified animals, old folk memories, products of overactive imaginations, or maybe, just maybe, something genuinely unknown, they play a pretty important role. They tap into our endless fascination with the mysterious, that little part of us that wants to believe not every corner of the world has been mapped out and explained away. They're a reminder, aren't they? That even now, with all our science and tech, there are still shadows out there. And in those shadows, wonders and maybe even horrors could still be lurking. The backwoods, the quiet country roads, all across America, they're alive with these stories. They really show you the power of local legends, the incredible creativity of people, and that nagging possibility that sometimes, just sometimes, those stories that make you question what's really out there, well, they might be told for a reason. Well, our journey through America's legendary creatures is wrapping up for now, but let's be honest, the mysteries themselves, they're a long way from solved. So which of these creatures really sent a shiver down your spine? Got a local legend from your state that we missed? We want to hear it. Share your thoughts, your own stories, your theories. Drop them all in the comments below. If you had a good time exploring these hidden corners of American folklore with us, do us a favor. Hit that like button and definitely subscribe and turn on notifications. You won't want to miss where our investigations into the unknown take us next. Every click genuinely helps us bring more of these incredible stories out of the shadows. Until next time, keep those eyes peeled and never stop wondering what might be lurking just out of sight. Because the truth, as they say, is out there. And sometimes, it's a whole lot stranger than fiction.